Uh, Good afternoon to all members who are seeing this event today. Let me welcome Ambassador Pratibha Parker, the Ambassador of India to Angola, on behalf of the Peninsula Foundation. It's a great pleasure to have you, Ambassador, on this program today to look at India-Angola relations and hear from you a lot more on the possibilities and the future direction of India-Angola relations. Let me first take few minutes to introduce or talk about the Peninsula Foundation to you. It's a young think tank. It's just 3 years old. We've set it up in Chennai, and it focuses on policy research and in a comprehensive way in which we have 4 verticals, which looks at democracy and governance. The second one is international and transnational affairs. The third one is science, technology, and security affairs. And the fourth one is focused on innovation and disruptive, concepts, and we call that as transformational paradigms. And our focus is on younger generation to, build capacity, achieve capacity building in younger generations in terms of policy understanding, policy analysis, and policy research. Plus, we also look at, working on research projects in all 4, verticals. We would be very happy to engage and contribute in whatever way that we can actually enhance through our research projects and through our studies in enabling India, Angola, and India-African relationships, and in the form of various studies that we can do. We are always open to that. Having given you a little overview, I think we are at a time, as you just mentioned, at a time when Africa assumes a great importance to India, and I think as much as we've done on look east and act east, we need to act west significantly, looking at the African continent, and also I would say even Latin America, South America. I think these are areas that need a greater attention, and Africa in particular. Africa is going to be the future. So let me now hand over to our senior fellow, Dr. Sunod Jacob, who's the specialist on international law, and he looks after the vertical on multilateral institutions and international law. And I welcome you on behalf of the TPF once again, and he will now take over and handle the session for today. Sunod, all yours.
Thank you, Air Marshal. A very warm welcome to our special guest, Ambassador Pratibha Parker. And it's fantastic to reconnect after 18 long years. And a very warm welcome to our focus group of researchers who are in attendance through this platform. And also to our guests, participants who are watching this event on Facebook Live and on YouTube. So I shall first brief both the audience who are new. For the old audience, you are already aware of the format. For the new audience, let me brief you of the format of this event. We host this event on a monthly basis, and we invite eminent people, experts to speak on niche areas. It is for a duration of about 1 hour, of which 30 minutes would be used by the guest to speak on the topic that has been assigned. Thereafter, close to about 20 minutes, we shall have a Q&A session. As people who are already familiar with the format, this wouldn't be new. The questions have already been sent to the ambassador, and those questions would be raised. These are the questions prepared by the researchers of the Peninsula Foundation. Our researchers will always get the first priority in in our events, and thereafter the floor will be open for questions, further questions, depending on the time that we have. Now, with that few words, I would like to introduce our special guest for today's lecture, Ambassador Pratibha Parker. She joined the Foreign Service back in the year 2000, and her first diplomatic stint commenced in Moscow, in the Embassy of India in Moscow in the year 2002. She served as the second secretary for 2 years there. She's a fluent Russian speaker. She worked later as undersecretary at the headquarters in the Ministry of External Affairs or the Myanmar division. She also worked as first secretary in the Indian Embassy in Jakarta. for 3 years between 2008 and 2011 in Indonesia, and as consular political in the permanent mission of India to the United Nations in New York between the years 2011 to 2014. Later, she worked as director at the headquarters in the Ministry of External Affairs for the division covering Bangladesh and Myanmar for 3 years. Ambassador Pratibha Parker thereafter served for 3 years as Consul General of India in Frankfurt in Germany, after which she has now taken charge quite recently as the India's ambassador to Angola. So now with this brief description, I'd like to also add that during her 2-decade-long span of her career in the Foreign Service, Ambassador Pratibha Parker has gained specialization over bilateral and multilateral diplomacy, especially in the areas of economic, commercial, and global disarmament issues, the UN Security Council issues, and community work. Promotion of Indian culture abroad is a passion, and I'll just add to that she's been blessed with a wonderful daughter, and she's married to a career diplomat who happens to be the Indian ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Sugandh Rajaram. With these few words, I now invite Ambassador Pratibha Parker to deliver her lecture. Thank you. Over to you, Ambassador.
Thank you for this long introduction. So, Air Marshal M. Matheswaran, founder and president of the Peninsula Foundation, Dr. Sunod Jacob, dear friend, and friends. First of all, I would like to thank Peninsula Foundation for giving me this opportunity to participate in one of your event, and I'm glad that your members and your researchers are interested in India-Angola relations. I have recently assumed charge as Ambassador of India in Angola. I joined in the last week of July, and I presented my credentials to the President of Angola in the month of October. As you all are aware, you are following that India is making serious efforts to deepen its ties with almost all countries in Africa. Air Marshal has rightly pointed out that we need to strengthen our ties with the African country. There's a lot of potential, and that potential has not been utilized or achieved so far. And I think that's with that message we have all been sent to these African countries, and we are also working in this direction. I would like to tell you that some of the relations with some countries in Africa are very intensive because of our colonial past, a large Indian diaspora, and many other reasons. Whereas in our relations with Angola are friendly, but till now I would not say that they were very extremely intensive, but we are in the process to intensify these relations and to strengthen these relations with a very important country. To understand the background of India and Angola relations, I think that first of all we need to understand a little about the country because it is my observation that Angolans know very little about India, and Indians also know very little about Angola because of our historical background of Angola and also India. So that's why I would like to throw a little bit light on how Angola developed, or what was the situation in Angola for last 25 or 40 years since it became independent in 1975. And my readings or my interactions with the diplomatic community and Angolans, local community over here, have given me some idea about my readings, and I would like to share with you all my impressions about this beautiful country. So, if you compare Angola with India, it is 2.6 times smaller than India. The total population of Angola is 32 million, and the country is located in southwestern Africa. It has 50 million hectares of forest land, 35 million hectares of arable land, and out of which only 14% is in use. Land is fertile, and the country is very rich in mineral resources, including oil, diamonds, and other mineral resources or other precious stones. So, Angola is Africa's second largest crude oil producer, a net producer of natural gas, and also the third largest producer of diamonds in the continent, with the third largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. It is the largest and wealthiest of the Portuguese-speaking African states. Angola has very deep connection with Portugal because of its colonial past. The GDP per capita of Angola is US dollar 3,000, and its location in this country provides us an opportunity to target 300 million consumers of SADC countries. It's an important player in this regional bloc, SADC, that is South Africa Development Community. And it has preferential trade agreements with Namibia, Republic of Congo, DRC, Mozambique, Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. The country was a Portuguese colony for 500 years, and it became independent in 1975. It had a lot of opportunities to develop post independence, but unfortunately, Angola was engulfed in the civil war between two groups, MPLA, which was supported by Russia, means USSR and Cuba at that time, and the opposition party UNITA rebel group UNITA, which had received support from US and South Africa. So that civil war went on for years. It had also sad stories how the arable or farming land was infected with landmines. If anyone of you remember that Princess of Wales, Diana started her that anti-landmines campaign from Rwanda in 1990s. So that was the situation. I'm just referring it to you. That was what situation during the civil war. But that civil war ended in 2002, and then from 2002 the country started progressing mainly because of the oil, because oil was discovered, and then suddenly there was a lot of money. The country progressed from 2002 to 2014, but then 2014 onwards, the oil prices started falling, and country is now a little bit suffering because of this crash of oil prices. About the political system, that MPLA, the country has been ruled since 1975 up till now by MPLA, but the new President João Lourenço, President Santos, who ruled for 38 years, and now he handed over power to the new President João Lourenço, and he is very committed to anti-corruption regime. Kind of he started anti-corruption drive since he came to power in 2017, which includes strict measures against the families of family members of the previous president, and he seems to be very committed to corruption-free government and also to diversify economy. So this is where we are. Like, I have come to a country where there is a new government, the country which has seen oil boom or because of progress because of oil for last 15 years, and now there is a stability and democracy. So this is what the Angola is. The Angola economy is like it is largest African crude oil producer after Nigeria. Angolan economy is heavily dependent on hydrocarbon production, which contributes nearly 50% of its GDP. And more than 70% of government revenue comes from oil production or oil exports, and the volatility of oil prices has revealed weaknesses of this oil economy, because of which the government is determined to diversify its economy. Now coming to India-Angola relations, I would like to underline that Angola shares very friendly relations with India, dating back to its pre-independence time, because India had supported freedom struggle of Angola. That's why the relations have always been cordial and friendly. India established diplomatic relations with Angola in 1985, and since then has maintained very cordial relations. We have had a couple of VVIP visits, but what I can say that this is the 35th year of our diplomatic relations. In his inaugural speech in 2017, the present president, João Lourenço, mentioned India among the countries with whom they would like to deepen its ties. And I would also like to mention that when I presented my credentials to the president, I got an opportunity to have a private audience with him. And at that time also, he expressed his deep interest in strengthening relations with India. He appreciated that India has progressed so well, and he felt that because India is also have various issues, because some parts are not probably developed, they will be able to understand Angola very well, and that's why he has keen interest in developing relations with India in every possible sector. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Joe Lorenzo, they met on the sidelines of BRICS summit in Johannesburg in 2018, and they discussed ways to increase trade and investment between two countries. I'm happy to inform you that at present the relationship is on high trajectory, and both countries had their first ever joint commission meeting in September this year. The joint commission meeting was co-chaired by our EM, Dr. S. Shankar, and the Foreign Minister of Angola, His Excellency Tete Antonio. Tete Antonio also has some background of multilateral diplomacy. He was AU representative, Africa Union representative for quite a long time, and he understands the dynamics and the importance of having great bilateral relations with India. During this meeting, both ministers agreed to move forward for intensification of economic relations with partnership in trade and investment, agriculture, food processing, diamond trading, health and pharmaceutical, and both sides also signed three MOUs. We look forward to since there were also discussions of VVIP visits in the beginning of 2020 from both sides. President of Angola wanted to visit India, and also Vice President of India wanted to visit Angola, but due to COVID pandemic, these VVIP visits could not materialize. But we hope that once the situation normalizes, there will be VVIP visits from both sides to take forward this relationship, and we also hope that there will be high level participation for the fourth India Africa summit, which was originally planned for 2020, but however it was postponed. We hope that we get a good representation. Our bilateral trade is showing a perceptible increase in the last 3 years as compared to previous years, and has been around 4 billion. But of course, the trade-off balance is in favor of Angola because Indian imports from Angola, they are a major chunk of our bilateral trade relationship, with 90% of imports or standing up to US dollar 3.7 billion, and our exports to Angola are only zero point 0.3 billion. So India is the third largest trading partner of Angola, sharing about 10% of Angola's external trade. So India is very important for Angola if you consider its external trade. Balance of trade, as I mentioned already, that is in favor of Angola, and it's mainly crude oil. At present, India and Angola trade relations are concentrated in the field of energy, but both economies can complement each other. Angola is rich in hydrocarbon and mineral resources, and India is rich, as all of you know, it's rich in human and financial capital and has low cost technical expertise. So India could become an important trading partner in the petrochemical fields. The diamond is the another sector where two countries can synergize. There is enormous potential for agriculture in Angola. Both sides can explore possibilities of exchange of agriculture technology, while Angolan side can take help of Indian investors to achieve self-sufficiency in the food production. They have also sought assistance of India in the field of mainly they have sought assistance of India in the field of pharmaceutical, health, agro-industry, veterinary, rural development, capacity building, and irrigation. So there are diversified areas where both countries can work together. Of course, there is not much great cooperation in all these fields, but there are possibilities and opportunities. It's also the largest producer of rough diamonds, and India is huge market for diamond and is one of the finest and cheapest and largest diamond polishing industry in the world. So India is willing to open its market to Angolan diamond traders. Direct diamond export between India and Angola can take place because we can provide them cutting edge technology for diamond polishing. And we had organized first ever virtual meeting between India and Angola yesterday itself in cooperation with James and Jewelry Export Promotion Council, where businesses from both countries participated. So that was one of the important steps that we took in the direction of intensifying our relations in the field of James and Jewelry. There is also enormous potential for agriculture as Angola is presently dependent on imports for food supplies. A lot of food is imported from outside, so they can explore possibilities of exchange of agriculture techniques. There is a lot of what I can say possibility of opportunities. They also share robust. We also share robust technical and educational cooperation. Indian government provides training to government officials and other professionals under ITEC system. We will offer 12 ITEC scholarships to Angola every year, and there are also a lot of this year we offered 34 ICCI scholarships to Angolan students to undergo uh, graduate and postgraduate studies in various subjects in universities in India. We have seen tremendous response to these scholarship programs, and also these 34 Angolan citizens have taken admission in various universities in India during the current year. They were mainly went to field of engineering, science, IT, economics, arts, psychology, philosophy. So these programs were successful. Indian community in Angola is only 6,000 people. They mainly are businessmen and professionals in oil companies, and the Indian businesses are mainly in the sectors of they are in the mainly the small scale industries and also in the field of trading. There are a lot of and also pharmaceutical supplies. So this is the area right now in which we find Indian business community. But there are some challenges in doing business in India, in Angola, and the main challenge is the language because most of the people in Angola speak Portuguese, so the language is one of the barriers. There are some visa issues which we are taking up with the Angolan side so that Indian business people can come here and do their businesses freely, and some issues of repatriation of profits. But there is a determination in the Angolan government side to remove these difficulties and to make India and Angola relations, trade relations, so that the relations between both countries. It is important to note that India and Angola have a very good cooperation in the international forum, including United Nations. Both countries face several common development challenges. As a result, we have common positions on various issues, especially concerning environment, climate change, energy security, trade, and counterterrorism. Our partnership with Angola is driven by desire for South-South cooperation, empowerment, capacity building, human resource development, access to each other's market, and support for Indian investment, where both countries can learn from each other's experience. India is aware about the fact that Angola is a very important player in this continent. Angola has very good relations with almost all its neighbors and has played a very important role whenever there have been crises in the continent. So that is also a plus point of Angola, and that's why they can play a very important role in the multilateral forum. So that's important point to know. It's also important to note that like during my tenure here, my type of most priority would be to take already good relations, to make them very strong, to intensify our relations in almost all the sectors that I mentioned just now, and to take it further to the great level, to the further level. In the context of Africa, I would like to highlight that India's endeavor is always to base our partnership on the principles of equality, mutual respect, solidarity, and mutual benefit. So that's the tenet to which we conform ourselves. Our tenet is like Africa owned and Africa led development. And this is what I try to, whenever during my interactions with my counterparts in Angola, also I would like to, I always make an effort to underline or to stress this fact that this is the utmost priority of the government of India, that whatever projects or whatever we do in Angola, it will be always Angola led and Angola owned. So that's our mode of cooperation will be. And that's the model of cooperation. This is like Africa driven, consultative, participating that involves local resources and build capacity and is based on Angola's own priorities. I think this is very important to have confidence with Indian intention, about Indian intention. And in that direction, I'm working to strengthen India and Angola relations. I believe that no South-South cooperation can and should result in restricting the space for development or constrain the future of our countries. And the challenge is to have liberate the potential of Angola. And with that, I would like to end my presentation on Angola and India relations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for your lecture. And with that, we'll commence the Q&A session. And I shall start off with the questions that have already been framed. The first question is that very recently, the first session of the Angola-India Joint Commission, which you have mentioned briefly in your lecture, had taken place on the 7th of September 2020. And the session, as you had mentioned, was co-chaired by both the Honorable External Affairs Ministers. Could you provide us a general brief about this commission and the working of this commission? A little bit of information would be useful for our researchers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. So on January 30th, 2017, India and Angola signed an agreement for the establishment of bilateral commission. And the Angolan Cabinet Council, in its meeting in June 2017, they ratified the presidential decree approving the agreement for the establishment or the creation of Angola-India Joint Commission. So there were in last 2 years we were trying to finalize, trying to have this joint commission. In between, our MOS also visited for the preparation of Angola India Joint Commission, and then finally we had our first ever meeting of this joint commission, which in the month of September 2020. because of COVID, physical participation was not possible, so the meeting was in a
Virtual.
virtual mode, and it was co-chaired by our, of course, EM, Dr. S. Jaishankar, and Foreign Minister Tete Antony. During the JCM, both sides agreed to move forward for intensification of economic relations to partnership in trade and investment, agriculture and food processing, diamond trading, pharmaceuticals, IT and IT-enabled services, and oil and natural gas. EM Dr. Jaishankar and Foreign Minister Tete Antonio both agreed that JCM has given opportunity to further work together and make things happen towards realizing the great potential that exists towards enhancing our relations. It was also agreed that both sides would help bringing businessmen to invest in the identified areas. And the key outcome of JCM area was like both sides signed three agreements, of course virtually, in the areas of health, visa waiver for diplomatic and office passport holders, and cooperation in training between foreign service institutes. So this was the outcome, but there were many other things related to business and trade which both sides discussed and decided to have some working groups so that they can take forward or intensify relations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. This is a follow-up question, a supplementary question. You had mentioned that in the course of the discussion through this forum, that is the Angola-India Joint Commission, a number of areas of potential was identified in terms of economic cooperation. Now, you've already provided us a brief overview of the extensive energy relations that already exist between the two countries. Now, outside of the energy relations, on the identified areas such as pharmaceutical and IT industry, what is the current status? What would be your appraisal of the current state of relations and how much more can be done? Thank you.
Thanks, Snow. As I mentioned you and as you have also observed that oil and energy cooperation is at the heart of our trade relations. I also gave you our trade figures, 4 billion, out of which almost 3.7 billions are India's imports of crude oil. So Angola is a very important country in Africa, right after Nigeria, for crude oil supplies. And I have mentioned that 10% of our Angola's external trade is with India, mainly again in the field of oil and gas. And we also in 2010 have signed MOU with Angola in the field of oil and gas to explore the possibilities of cooperation in various areas. But COVID-19 has affected this relationship or the trade relations in the energy sector. There are some downward trend because every year trade has fallen down by 19%, particularly in this crude and oil products. And in the current financial year, they have further dropped by 60%. And of course, I think that the sole reason could be the COVID-19. So, but Indian oil companies have shown interest in investing in Angola. They have sent delegations. Last maybe couple of years, we received delegations from ONGC, Reliance Industry, HPCL, Mittal Investment. So, almost all companies have come and visited Angola to find out the opportunities for investment. But the major importer for Angola is Indian Oil Corporation and Bharat Petroleum Corporation. Their imports are in major way. So 4.8 MMT worth of crude oil was imported by IOCL in 2019 and 20, and there is further commitment of 3 MMT for 2021. So we have also requested Angola to grant free delivery expansion and credit expansion from 30 to 90 days for oil companies. During our first JCM, which took place, proposed export of servo lubricants to Angola and purchase of LNG by India from Angola on spot and short-term basis. So there is need of more focused participation by Indian companies, particularly in the upstream oil sector, and we are planning to have more cooperation, more B2B meetings in cooperation with our Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas in future. So this is for oil and gas sector, but you also were asking about other sectors like pharmaceutical and IT. And there I would like to mention that the government of Angola is very keen to have very strong relations with India in the field of pharmaceutical and health, because you know, as Prime Minister Modi has already aptly described as pharmacy of the world, and sending much needed medicines to scores of countries that we have sent in COVID-19 pandemic, which has been noted by Angola, which has been observed by Angola, and they know that India. There was a very big article recently in the Angolan newspaper and showing how India has become world leader in producing and supplying low-cost generic medicines and vaccines, and India's pharmaceutical companies, how they have also created path-breaking innovation. So there's a keen interest. There was a request from Indian Health Minister, Angolan Health Minister as well as President of Angola, saying that Indian pharmaceutical companies should come and invest in Angola. They should set up plant here in Angola. They are also interested in having cooperation with some of the Apollo Hospital, and a delegation visited India last year, and also Health Minister of Angola participated in some of the recently last month in the virtual conference in which she presented opportunities to the Indian side and invited Indian hospitals to come and Indian pharmaceutical companies to come and invest in Angola. There is also, as I mentioned, that Angola is the third largest producer of diamond. They are going to next year, 2021. They are going to start diamond exchange in Angola, and they are also setting up a lot of facilities that sector so that diamond traders can do trading in Angola itself. And yesterday we had that our first virtual meeting in which various diamond traders and diamond companies had participated, and there were representatives of diamond state-owned diamond companies, Sodiama and Indiama, and they invited diamond companies to invest in all three areas. They said that we would like Indian companies to come and invest in mining, as well as diamond polishing, as well as imitation jewelry and diamond jewelry. And they also explain what how handholding or what the facilitation will come from Angolan side. There were two Indian companies which came last year, and they also shared their experience in this sector. So this was another sector, and then the agriculture sector is another sector, because farming is not very well developed in Angola, and they import a lot of food products from outside, and that's the reason they also told us that they would like to have Indian companies to come and set up plants in food processing, so that their dependency on food products from outside countries is reduced. And then health sector, we are also exploring possibility for traditional medicine system, Ayurveda and herbal medicines, Unani medicines. So these are the areas. We have also approached Angolan government and have told them that Indian companies can help them in the digitization of their government system. So there are various areas in which we can work together, and there are various possibilities. But these are 4 5 sectors in which India Angolan government is very keen for investment from India.
Thank you, Ambassador, for that answer. It's heartening to note that the relations in the economic front are being diversified as we speak, outside, even outside energy. That's good to know. And another question, this is something which you're very familiar with, having been a multilateral yourself. What is the government of Angola's position on the UN Security Council reforms? And is there a commonality of vision here? You've served in the UN mission in New York a few years ago. Now, it would be good to know what is Angola's position on the UN Security Council reforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. This is one of the important areas in which we have a very good relationship with Angola. The Angolan government is a strong proponent of revitalizing UN for some time, and it is not for reforms' sake, but they want to make this UN system more efficient and more effective, more accountable to its member states. And then they have been very strongly holding the view that the Security Council should be enlarged to better, in a better way, to reflect the contemporary global politics. They were a member of UNSC, non-permanent member of UNSC 2 years earlier, in 2015 and 16, and 2003 and 4. So they are quite active in that multilateral system, but they take the position of African Union on UNSC reform through Isulbini consensus, which defends increase in the number of Security Council, like 2 permanent members with right to vote veto, and 5 non-permanent seats. So 2 seats as a permanent member seat for Africa, and 5 non-permanent seats. So this is their stand, and full representation of Africa in the Security Council. This is what they have been asking for. And during 75th UNGA, Foreign Minister Tete Antonio stated that we would like that until the launch of Security Council reforms, a stronger voice from the African continent is necessary to ensure the reflection of the interest of the African continent within the decisions of Security Council. And here I would like to mention that in all the elections that take place in multilateral fora, we always get support from Angola. Angola have always voted for Indian candidates, and they consider India, they support all our positions. So we are very grateful for their support in our multilateral. This is what
Thank you,
I really
Ambassador. Thank you. Before I move to the next question, I observe that questions are being posted in the chat box. For those who are researchers and guests who wish to ask questions, kindly start inputting your question into the chat box. We'll address them as we move. The next question, Ambassador, is on the area of development cooperation. What is the current status between India and Angola in terms of development cooperation? And do you foresee if more could be done in the future? Thank you.
Thanks, Sunod. Again, because I would like to tell you that since 2002, Angola, because of oil boom, you say, Angola was progressing fast. It also had a very strong connection with Portugal, Brazil, and some other countries. So somehow we did not make that big entry into this whole field. of development cooperation. But in the past, we offered them three LOCs. The total amount was of $85 million. So out of that, $40 million was for financing railway rehabilitation in Angola. $30 million was for setting up of industrial park, and $50 million was for setting up a textile project. So all these LOCs were some 10 years ago, they have been utilized, and all these plants have already been set up in Angola. So right now there is not any, we do not have any pending LOC or any project, but we are trying, or we are in the process of identifying projects in Angola in which LOC could be offered and Indian companies can come and help Angola to set up some infrastructure projects or plans.
Okay. Thank you,
This is the current
Ambassador.
situation.
Okay, okay, thank you. Now from the chat box, we have Sami was raised a question on how intensive is the automotive sectors in Angola. Since it's a general question, I believe the question is on a general overview of the automotive sector, and also whether Indian companies have or could make inroads into that sector in Angola. Thank you.
Automotive sector in general.
Automobile, yeah.
Automobile sector. We have some Indian companies. If you say there is a Mahindra tractors have been supplied to Angolan side, and they are demand. But other than that, in general, automobile sector, we see Toyota and other companies in a big way. But because of there's not a very good, road system and all, I hardly see the other European companies. So this is what has been seen. But Mahindra tractors we have supplied. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. And a supplementary question from again Sami. In terms of essential oil extraction business, how is the relationship between India and Angola? If you require more clarity on the question, Velusamy, you may ask the question directly. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm there. Dear Ambassador, see the essential oil, since Angola also has an agriculture sector, do they grow the
pulses?
All the pulses and kind of a flowers and like a vetiver, or they like a natural fragrance extraction, like a lemongrass? Anything is there in Angola? That's the question. Can we extend the business potential to Angola?
Thank you for this question. But as I already mentioned, somehow the Angola has not utilized all its potential in this field, farming. Farming is not at all developed in Angola. There is an arable land, and very little land is used because of the civil war. What happened that many people migrated to Luanda, the city, because it was very dangerous to live in the countryside. And then these rebel groups also, there were landmines all over the country. So in last 15 years, since the war ended in 2002, lot of grant or aid was given by other countries, US, Japan and all, to free Angola of landmines. But still there are landmines in many of the far off places. It's very dangerous to do farming in that, but they have removed these landmines. I think 80% of land is free, but they are not using it for agricultural products. So agriculture is kind of not properly developed in this country, and it was one of the fifth largest coffee producer prior to its independence. But because of the civil war and all, the coffee production, fishing, it has all come down. And now that there is a stability in the country, and they want to go back to that self-sufficiency in the food products. So there is a lot of scope. They want Indian investors to come and invest in agricultural farmland and share our techniques in the agricultural sector. They also want training from India for farming and agriculture sector.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador. I think that answer also summarizes the response to the next question that has been raised by Mr. M.K. Padmanabhan on contemporary technology in agriculture. It's there in the chat box. However, if you would want to add something more to this question, or you could raise the question directly to the ambassador. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, madam. Basically, I just belong to a tri-party between Virginia Tech, United States, and they have set up a center in India. And we work extensively in the area of research consultancy and more importantly on outreach programs in the Indian subcontinent. And one of the primary focus is on agriculture, use of contemporary technologies for agriculture, as well as applications of agriculture, training and various aspects. So I was just wondering, yes, as is mentioned that I have generally gathered now idea, but is there anything specific that you would like to mention?
As I mentioned earlier, that first of all, they need a lot of training in agriculture, and they seek India's cooperation in all this field. And there are some UN representatives also who are working in this field. So there is a lot of aid. Also, Angola is getting so that they become self-sufficient in food and other items.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now that we have about 5 minutes remaining, and if there are any questions, any further questions that our guests would want to ask, yes.
I just want to raise a question.
Yes. Over to you, Air Marshal. Yeah.
Master, thank you for that excellent overview that you've given. I just want to raise one is, of course, you've already mentioned the country that's gone through a civil war, and there's a huge potential for them to catch up on, I believe 2/3 of the population is illiterate, and therefore there's a huge scope for our education institutions to collaborate and help them on education and set up joint ventures on education institutions. That's one area. And technical and engineering, because it's countries at a stage where, much like Kenya, they can actually leapfrog by bringing in technologies and communications and connect people. That's one of the ways to go about. The second one is about, although on the southern side, it has a peaceful borders now with Namibia and the other countries. Nigeria is in the north, which has a fair amount of internal problems. So is there a security angle, dimension to, in terms of threats from the groups in Nigeria for Angola, and particularly diamond industry is all over the continent is a heavily politicized industry as well, and therefore there are various mafia groups that work on the diamond issues. So from that angle, is there a security, and is there a security relationship between India and Angola, or are we looking at that from helping out Angola in that angle?
Thank you. Yes, technical and educational. I said that there is already a lot of interest in the Angolan side to go to India. The only barrier is the language barrier, because most of the education locally here is in Portuguese language. So how are we going? Our educational institutes are going to come and set up? That is one issue. From security angle, Angola, as I already mentioned, that it has peaceful borders with almost all its neighbors. There were internal issues of civil war, which is ended, but it does not have any severe issues with any of its neighbors. In fact, it has played a very positive role in settling some of the border issues in its neighboring issues. Like whenever there has been some issues, Angola has played a role of peacemaker, and we do not. There is security issues are in general generally, but not terrorism kind of issues. So I have not seen any threat from terrorism point of view in Angola. That way, it is a peaceful country. And also, I saw that the government has been taking stricter measures whenever there have been some issues against businessmen, like robbery or this thing, kidnappings. Then the government had taken strict measures, but not there are not terrorism issues. That's what I
That's
have seen.
very good to know, because some of our guests today are in the field of business, and for them these topics and these answers are very important for to have a peaceful and stable investment and relation in Angola. It's good to know that it's a peaceful country and it has peace with its neighbors. That's good, very heartening to know. Thank you, Ambassador Pratibha.
Just one more, Ambassador, one more. I just can't stop myself asking you that. How much is the Chinese presence in Angola? And how is their relationship?
There is a vast, when the civil war ended in 2002, Angola has relations with various, all these African countries, they have one or other patron. So, because of its colonial past, they have very strong connections with Portugal. Because of its Portuguese-speaking language, there were many Brazilian investors who came and invested in Angola. But since 2002, I would say that the country is overtaken by China. There were huge loans which were given to Angola for infrastructure development, almost 60 billion. And out of this, Angola yet to pay back 20 billion US dollars. Get to pay back to China, and that's because they have so much of loans or they are so indebted to China. What happens that whatever oil they got in last 20 years, the oil directly went to China. They could not sell it in the open market because they had to pay back to their loans. This is why the inflation rate was very high in Angola. I will not believe, but it is one of the costliest city capital in Africa. It's tremendously costly. The rates were very high. Everything was very costly because they had that cash crunch in the market because they were selling all their oil to China. So every other market, every other business, there is a Chinese investment. Very big Chinese.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thanks to our neighbors. There's a lot more work to do. So I think that's been a fabulous session.
Not just one intervention. There's a lot of presence. We have a very vibrant, group of the aerospace industry association in Tamil Nadu, and some members are there from the association. And I would encourage them if anybody wants to ask questions, because I think this is a vibrant, segment that's looking for opportunities. And if any of them want to ask questions, they can do that. Or if you'd like to say,
yes, Mr. Sundaram, kindly unmute yourself. Yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, madam. Thanks for this opportunity. I am Sundaram from Aerospace Engineers Private Limited, Salem and Hosur, and it's a small and medium sector enterprises working around 300 people with us, and we are in the field for 30 years, madam. 32 years we are running it, and recently 2 years back we signed a big contract with African countries like Egypt Armament Authority. We signed a contract for supporting the rubber and non-metallic components for Egyptian airport authorities for a period of 5 years. If any opportunity like this, Angola, like that, madam?
I think there is a possibility, but I will have to find out. I'll get back to you. You please write to me an email, and then I can check and find out whether there is any possibility. I think this is a very intensive question, and I will need to check with the Angolan side. But I believe that there is a possibility of.
Yes.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you for
have the
that.
contact details?
Very kind of you to offer that support. And
Please
this kind
write
of
me an
support is,
email to
necessary for our industry.
am.luanda@ema.in.
Madam?
My email ID is m.luanda@mea.gov.in. So please send me an email and we will definitely pursue your proposal.
Thank you. Thank you so
We
much.
are already in touch with the Ministry of Defense of Angola.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. So with that, the clock has struck 4:30. That's our 1 hour session and we are bang on time. Thank you to all the guests who have been cooperative in the timing, and many, many thanks to Ambassador Pratibha Parker for spending her valuable time. Now I'll hand over the floor to our researcher, Siobhan, who will be delivering the vote of thanks for today. Siobhan, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, on behalf of the Peninsula Foundation, I'd like to extend a big, big thank you to you, Ambassador, for spending your time with us and delivering a very interesting lecture and just interacting so willingly with us. We are so grateful to you for your time, and we hope we can interact with you more in the future as well in other events. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ambassador. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Bye.